You know that sinking feeling you get when you see it on the news? A sudden crash, a moment of pure chaos, and then a car just speeds away, leaving someone behind. Hit-and-run incidents are a horrible reality on our roads, and they immediately make you wonder about justice and about responsibility.
So let's imagine that exact scenario. A driver hits a pedestrian and takes off. From a legal standpoint, what actually happens next? What does the law even look at? And crucially, how does it handle the hit versus the run?
And this isn't just some hypothetical question. The Law Commission of India itself has pointed this out. It's a known problem that when a driver does something wrong, their first instinct is often to just disappear. So what exactly does the law punish in these all-too-common situations? To really understand this, we have to start at the very beginning. Before we even get to an injury or, God forbid, worse, the law first looks at the act of driving itself, and that's all covered under Section 279 of the Indian Penal Code. This is basically the baseline offense. The second you drive in a way that's so reckless it could put someone's life in danger, you've already broken the law. As you can see, the punishment can be up to 6 months in jail, a fine, or both. Think of this as the legal foundation for everything else that might happen. Okay, so that's the logical next question, isn't it? It's one thing to drive dangerously, but what happens when that danger becomes a reality and someone actually gets hurt? The law, you'd think, would have to get more serious. And it does. When a reckless act leads to an injury, we have to look at two other key sections of the Penal Code, 337 and 338. And these two sections make a really important distinction, based on just how badly someone was hurt. Here you can really see how the law escalates. Under Section 337, if you cause hurt, the penalty is up to 6 months. But if that injury is grievous, we're talking broken bones, permanent damage, something that puts their life in danger, then Section 338 kicks in. And look at that, the potential prison time jumps all the way up to 2 years. The punishment directly mirrors how severe the consequence was. And then, of course, we have to confront the most tragic outcome of all, when that rash and negligent act on the road doesn't just injure someone, but actually leads to their death. For this, the law has a very specific and very significant section. This is Section 304A. You hear this one cited a lot in fatal accident cases. If a person's death is caused by a rash act, the driver faces up to 2 years in prison, a fine, or both. 2 years. That's the maximum jail time for causing a death through negligence under this specific section. Now, that number has been the subject of a lot of debate over the years, but for now, that's the upper limit set by the law. So, as we've gone through all these laws, from just dangerous driving all the way to a fatality, you've probably spotted the pattern, right? The law is laser-focused on two things: the negligent act itself and the consequence of that act. But this is where we get to the really critical question. Because so far we've talked a whole lot about the hit, but what about the run? In a hit and run, where does the act of fleeing actually fit into the legal picture? Let's circle back to that Law Commission document. They didn't just notice that people run away, they actually posed a question about it. They asked if the act of running away should be made its own separate crime right there in the law books. And that question points to a massive gap. So here it is, the heart of the matter. The laws we've talked about all punish the hit. The penalty is entirely based on the damage that was caused. But the act of fleeing the scene, the run, is not a separate crime that adds to the punishment under these main sections. Basically, for the very same outcome, the penalty can be the exact same whether the driver stays to help or just speeds off. And that forces us to ask a really deep, fundamental question. Doesn't a driver who flees, who abandons a victim and tries to escape justice, show a greater level of guilt than someone who stays and faces the music? The law, as it's written today, doesn't really make that distinction in its punishment. And so that leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. Should the law evolve? Should the act of running away from an accident be its own crime with its own serious penalty, totally separate from the harm caused by the crash itself? It's a question about what we as a society think is worse, the accident or the conscious decision to evade all responsibility for it.